Okay, sorry about that. We're live now. Okay, can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I apologize for that. We were supposed to start at 5:45, and unfortunately we ran into, as I said, every issue that could come up did come up on my end. So we were scrambling here to try to make sure that we were live because we couldn't have a meeting. So it is 6:18. Our meeting only goes till 6:30. So Mayor, I'll defer to you if you want to. I would hate to try to jam this all in 10 minutes. Do you want to come back next week? I'm so sorry we wasted your time. I just couldn't figure out the computer. I don't know what happened with it. You're muted.
Am I unmuted? Okay, sorry about that. Believe me, I understand. I know that when it rains, it pours on the technology front in this this remote world. So yeah, I have to go at 6:30. So if you want to reschedule for next week, that's absolutely fine. I think that would be better. Carl's nodding his head yes. I know Rachel and Eileen are really excited to let you guys know, but they would be more than 10 minutes also. So that works for us. But
Okay.
you know, anything else that you want to address while we're on before your meeting, we're certainly happy to try.
Yeah, let me see. I'm so thrown off here because of everything that happened. Oh, just in terms of the capital budget. So I know we're still waiting for some questions to be answered on that, and then I think the plan was to bring it back. So is there any idea of when we might have some of those? There was just some outstanding issues from the public that we needed answered, and I think some from council. And then we were going to bring that up and take a final vote on it.
No, I completely, yes, absolutely. Yeah, we can, I can get that information to you this week on that, Bill. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And we can talk as well between now and next week. It's not a problem.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And
Thank
Bill,
you.
was there any questions tonight that we got in public comment about the capital budget?
No, none that I saw. But okay, well, I apologize again for the mix up here with the technical issues. So I will let you guys go, and then if we could reschedule for next Tuesday, that'd be great. Okay.
Problem.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
You know what? Hey, Bill, before we go, I had a couple questions when it came to some of those furloughed positions.
Well, Tom, you know what? Can we only have 10 minutes left. So instead of diving into a discussion that's going to take, I'd rather just reschedule everything for next week, if you don't mind.
I would say, Councilperson Schuster, if you want to talk about personnel things, we could schedule an executive session. If it's personnel related, it would need to be something that we do in a private session.
Okay.
But happy to do that.
Okay. Again, sorry for the mix up, and I just don't want to, we only have 9 minutes left. So I'd rather just start fresh next week when we have the full allotted time. So again, sorry about that, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. Sorry about that. I honestly am not sure really what happened, but we, between Kyle and Mark Migliori, we were on the phone trying to figure everything out how to get live. It just, the live stream would not work. And we could not have the meeting if we were not live streaming it. So again, I apologize for the confusion there. But so we have 9 minutes left. I just kind of wanted to, I guess we'll start off with the agenda. We have 3 new pieces on. Pretty self-explanatory. Does anybody have any questions on the new agenda items or anything in 7th order? Nope, everybody's good. Okay. As I mentioned just before, because of the mix up with the live stream tonight, we will reschedule the mayor, the business administrator, Director Cipriani from OECD for next week, if everybody's okay with that. And then we'll have the full, 45 minutes to ask any questions about and we're going to receive the financial projections from them, and then we'll go from there. We also had outstanding questions on the capital budget, which they said we'll get before next week. And there were some other issues that we had asked them about. So hopefully we get the answers to those as soon as possible.
Mr. Gaughan, those budget projections, are they going to send them over to us between now and next time they come back?
I'm assuming so, yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. That is all I have in terms of the agenda. The only other thing that we needed to talk about was the ethics board appointments. I personally have reviewed all 3 resumes. I appreciate all 3 of the people, putting forth their time and their effort and being interested. After reviewing them, I think the 2 people that I would go for are Dr. Myers and Thomas Finley. So I just kind of want to go around the room if everyone's prepared to say who they would like to see on the ethics board out of those 3. So Kyle, we'll start with you if you're ready.
I would prefer to push this off another week if we could.
Okay, for what reason?
Just to further review the applicants.
Okay. Does anyone else need more time to review them?
Is it I know I did review the requirements to be on the ethics board, and I know one of the 3rd applicant, Mr. Stanilka, put in his resume, and I don't know. I think it said about belonging to a party. You wouldn't be able to belong to one of the local political parties. He did have that in his resume. Is it a possibility that we could see, or maybe have Kevin review that to see if he is eligible for the position or not?
Well, I don't know if it makes you ineligible. I think if you were to take the position, you would need to. I don't have the code in front of me, but I don't.
So, no member can hold or campaign for any public office. No member may hold office in any political party or political organization or political committee. So it's not that they can't be affiliated with the political party. It's just they can't hold an office in the organization. In other words, they can't be the president of the Lackawanna County Democratic Party.
Yeah, I think he holds doesn't he hold a ward chair position possibly? Maybe he's a past ward chairman. I'd have to take a look at it again. If that was the case, would he have to resign from that position, or would it just have to be an elected position within the party?
It says any, and I'll take a deeper look at it. But the language, as far as I recall, is they may not hold office. I'm sorry, they may not, no member may hold a position, hold an office in any political party or political organization or political committee. So I'd have to see whether that ward position would qualify for that.
Yeah, I think that was my only question there with the 3 applicants.
Looking at his letter, it looks like he's stating that he's currently a judge of election in the city and a Democratic committee man.
So Kyle wants to wait another week. I'm comfortable making a decision tonight in the caucus. Mark?
Well,
I mean, there's only 3 people, so I mean, it's not like.
The only reason I don't want to wait another week is I'm going to mention it later that I'm going to be absent next week because of a contractual obligation at the Career Technology Center back to school night. So I will not be able to attend next week.
Okay, so have you've reviewed them? Do you have any preference at this point? There's 2 seats, so we need to pick 2 people.
Okay, yes. But it doesn't matter if the gentleman you're speaking of requires more research. I wouldn't be able to select him anyways next week because I would not be here.
Yeah, we're not going to vote. I don't think at this point we're going to vote on it next week. I just wanted to see if who everybody was, who your the 2 people are that you wanted to seat on the ethics board.
Well, I would be in favor of Meyer and Finley.
Okay, and Dr. Rothchild?
Yes, I've reviewed the resumes. I'm most impressed by Mr. Finley and Dr. Meyer. So those would be the two potential ethics board members that I'd be in favor of voting on.
Okay, all right, very good. So we only have 2 minutes left. Does anybody have anything else that's pressing for tonight?
The one thing that I wanted to bring up was, the University of Scranton is back in session, and some of those positions there that are furloughed, could be utilized at this point in time. That's where I was going when the mayor was still here. And also they deal with the permit parking up in the hill section, if I'm correct. I was kind of wondering why these positions haven't been brought back at this point, or if there's been any talk of that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. We did receive a list of the employees that were still furloughed, but yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure they'll answer that next week.
Yeah, and then, one of the other questions was about those permits, because I was kind of under the impression that maybe people in the Hill that usually bought permits maybe weren't buying permits at this time because they knew it wasn't being enforced, but wasn't sure if that was true or accurate.
What permits are you talking about?
The permits to park in front of the houses. In the Hill section, you buy the permit to park in front of the house, up around where Audubon used to be in the hospitals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think the civilian parking enforcement, the two positions were, they may have been furloughed. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't have the list in front of me, but.
Yeah, I think so. And then there was another one with the enforcer of licensing too, that seemed like they could kind of fall into that category, that maybe we're leaving money on the table at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else before we start the regular meeting in a minute? Okay. All right. Well, we'll get ready for the regular meeting here at 6:30 and we'll get started. Thanks, everyone. I'd like to call this public meeting to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for those who have passed away in our community, especially Mr. Louis J. Martini, a South Scranton resident who passed away last week. For more than 27 years, he was employed as a firefighter for the city, retiring with the rank of chauffeur. Let us also take a moment of silence for all of the people in our community, country, and world who have passed away from the coronavirus. This pandemic has turned our world upside down, but we must remain hopeful and strong. We continue to pray for the doctors, nurses, researchers, and all medical professionals who seek to heal and help those affected and who put themselves at risk in the process. May they have protection and peace. Whether we are home or abroad, surrounded by many people suffering from this illness or only a few, let us stick together, endure together, mourn together, and in place of our anxiety, let us have hope and peace. Okay, thank you, everyone. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Present.
Mr. McAndrew,
Present.
Dr. Rothchild,
Here?
Mr. Donahue,
Here.
Mr. Gaughan.
Here, thank you, Ms. Carrera. Mrs. Reed, please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Thank you. Third order. 3A, correspondence received from OECD Executive Director dated September 21, 2020, regarding responses to CARES Act funding and substantial amendments to action plans inquiries. 3B, minutes of the Civil Service Commission meeting held August 6, 2020. 3C, correspondence received from Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of the Auditor General dated September 10, 2020, regarding the results of the 2020 distress determination. 3D, correspondence received from the Historical Architecture Review Board dated September 23, 2020, regarding the Brooks Building at 436 Spruce Street. 3E, correspondence received from OECD dated September 24, 2020, regarding demolition of hazardous structures property substitute.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I have one. So tomorrow night, Wednesday night at Naog Park, it'll be the last concert, outdoor concert for the year. It will be a band called Classic Rock Express. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Schuster. Anybody else have any announcements? Okay, I have 3 announcements. The first announcement, based on the technical issues that we had tonight, we weren't able to have a full caucus. We did have planned a caucus with the administration, with the mayor, the business administrator, and the OECD director to give us a 2-pronged update on the financial projections for the city and also on the way that the administration is handling blight. Unfortunately, because of the technical issues, we weren't able to start until I was able to live stream the meeting. So we're going to reschedule that for next Tuesday, October 6th, and that'll be at 5:45 p.m. and hopefully we won't have any technical issues. Also, we have decided to make a slight change to the time of day in which public comment will be received in the office and via email. We're making a change from 4:30 p.m. the day of the meeting on Tuesday to no later than 3 p.m. in order to compile all of the submissions and to enable them to be read aloud during fourth order public participation. So that will commence next week, October 6th. Again, all public participation comments and questions should be submitted by the new deadline of 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Also, please keep in mind that you should keep your written comments, try to keep them to at least 5 minutes, as if we were in council chambers. Also, NDC will attend our caucus on October 20th, 2020 at 5:45 p.m. to provide their third quarter parking update. Mrs. Reed, fourth order.
Thank you. We have 2 submissions this week. The first is from Marie Schumacher as follows. Please place into third order of your next meeting the analysis on which council based its decision to transition to the payroll preparation tax. When may we expect to see all city contracts on the city's website? When will council return to their city hall chambers for meetings? You may have noticed the senior centers, who have been designated the most vulnerable citizens, have returned to the senior centers. Dunmore Borough meet in person as well. It's time to return to City Hall. Answers to questions have been lagging again. I am hoping you have the capital budget question answers to share tonight. Last week, I believe Mr. Donahue said he believed the police code enforcers have not been called back from furlough. If this is true, why were they furloughed in the first place and why not be called back? The revenue they generated was a contractual commitment to the people of the city. Do we have to sue the city to get the safety and revenue for which we contracted? I would request each member of council read or reread the administration's 2020 budget proposal to which council agreed. There was much promised that is not being provided, and this citizen would like to know why. Again, that was from Marie Schumacher. The second submission is from Mr. Coyne, is as follows. Greetings, members of City Council. Last week, you responded to my submission, and from that, I submit this. I understand that the 2020 budget has been approved and it's done, but nowhere along the road is it impossible to give direction to the mayor, executive branch, or evaluate changes to the following year's budget. The City Home Rule Charter sets up council as the legislative and purse strings branch and mayor as executive. As part of that, in Congress, in preparation for the budget, Congress lets known what it will not approve in the following year or gives guidance. Has City Council evaluated based on last year's budget what may reasonably be excluded or drawn a line at what it will reject if submitted for 2021? Will Council introduce or put to a vote the separation of the trash collection fee from the general funds as a way to audit real costs of collection and disposal. Has council received any response on the annual profit from the recycling center and its due share of any potential profits? Last, I was shocked, and you spoke of Scranton tomorrow being paid by the University of Scranton's payment in lieu of taxes. No wonder they took up the call to do whatever at the U of S calling. The payment in lieu of taxes should not be a pass-through to an outside group that works to improve land and public spaces directly in the area the U of S owns, but to aid all of the citizens of Scranton. The entire $200,000 payment in the U of S pays to the city never goes to the city in retiring debt, since $225,000 goes to Scranton tomorrow. Why can the university designate the where the taxes go? Can we as taxpayers also do the same, designating taxes to projects on my street only? It's concerning city taxes are running up through from a nonprofit to a nonprofit group every step of the way. We need a change. This includes the budget. As for the IT items, the request is bloated and undefined. A third party to create and monitor a firewall is more expensive than a one-time purchase of equipment and hiring a security professional on budget who can be used for other tasks when the firewall is set up. The $300,000 on the first year alone would cover the extra professional in firewalls and equipment. Surface computer pads are 3 times as expensive as smaller laptops without the ease of making them conform to an internal security and data retention policy. The only possible reason for anyone having one is the desire to have something flashy and upscale. Maybe a license and inspections person would qualify for the use as a tablet to take pictures and draw on a diagram. For standard work, it's getting a perk wanted but not needed. The overall IT path and budget needs a lot more attached detail before it should be approved. Thanks, Tom Coyne.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. At this time, I'd like to ask if someone would make a motion to accept public comment from Ms. Schumacher and Mr. Thomas Coyne.
I'll make a motion to accept public comment.
There's been a motion. Is there a second
Second.
Second.
on the question? On the question, I just want to check through a couple of these things. To place into, we'll start with Ms. Schumacher, to place into third order the analysis on which council based its decision to transition to the payroll preparation tax. There's been no official decision on that. There's been no legislation, in other words, correct, Councilman Donahue?
Yeah, so that's still in preparation for the court hearing that is still yet to be scheduled. I was just last week I was just giving an update on where we stood in terms of getting that information together.
And I believe there was a whole meeting, an analysis done in public with the former business administrator, members of the community, members of different institutions. And I think that's on YouTube if anybody wants to watch it. But I've been on the record on why I think transitioning from a business privilege and mercantile tax to a payroll preparation tax is a good move. It's more fair. I've been on the record multiple times at meetings stating the case on that one. When may we expect to see all city contracts on the city website? I was speaking with the city controller, John Murray, and he is working with the administration to make that happen. So I don't know exactly when, but I'm hopeful in the near future. So the city controller is working on that, but council wouldn't have any control over that, I don't believe. So it would be up to the administration, and now the controller has taken the lead on it. As for when council will return to chambers for meetings, the cases in Lackawanna County are through the roof. Every day there's 40, 50, 60 some cases. It's not safe to be back in a confined area like chambers with 5 council members, the city clerk, council solicitor, Ms. Carrera, and then you have however many members of the public will come. we've already made that decision as a group that we did not think it was in the best interest, not only of the council, but more importantly of the public to be in those chambers. And I'm certainly not going to put anybody in danger because, you know, one person wants to be back in chambers. I understand, you know, the push to do that. And I think eventually we'll get there, but now is not the time to do it. So that is something that we'll continue to monitor as we move forward, but I don't foresee it being anytime soon based on the conditions. We are still waiting on the capital budget questions. So when we get them, obviously we'll share them. I can't, you know, make them up out of thin air. We've posed them to the administration, and as we heard tonight in the caucus, hopefully by next week, we'll get them. And I think those were the only questions, and then 2 comments from Ms. Schumacher at the end. Mr. Coyne had a question. Has City Council evaluated based on last year's budget what may reasonably be excluded or draw a line at what it will reject if submitted for 2021? Number one, I don't think you can make that evaluation until you've seen the 2021 budget, because we're not sure yet what exactly the administration, what line items they're going to include that may have been included from last year. So it's difficult to say, but certainly that evaluation is ongoing, especially now within the next few weeks when the administration brings council in to discuss the budget. And then in talking with the mayor, we're going to do things a lot differently than they were done in the past, where the budget was like some kind of nuclear secret. There's going to be public hearings, more than one. The mayor and the business administrator will come to council caucus and explain the budget, go through the budget. So it will be much more transparent than it has been in the past. Again, when, as far as I was concerned in my experience, we didn't get the budget until November, and then it was like pulling teeth trying to get a question answered out of anyone. So I think that'll change this year. Has council received any response on the annual profit from the recycling center and its due share of any potential profits? We did receive a lengthy response from the recycling center. I was talking to Solicitor Hayes about that earlier today. We are still reviewing that, and I think we'll bring that back up for discussion when we have to vote on selecting a company to engage in our recycling collection moving forward based on the events that have happened. Will council introduce or put to a vote the separation of the trash collection fee from the general funds as a way to audit real costs of collection and disposal? Not sure I understand that question. I don't believe that we would need to vote on moving the trash fee into the real estate tax bill, but we'll leave that up to Solicitor Hayes to look into that maybe for next week. And then there's a couple of things on Scranton tomorrow, and I'll address those items in fifth order. Does anybody else have anything on the question for public comment?
Yes, on the question, do we know if the new business administrator plans on presenting any of the payroll preparation tax information to council? I'm new to council, but I'm not sure if Jess had an opportunity to hear any of that presentation, or I know Mark did on the school board, but I don't know if he's heard it on council. And on the school board, we were always promised the Berkheimer numbers by the city, which never really happened. So, I mean, I'd really like to take a good look at those numbers that the city has compiled, which I haven't seen yet, and get a meeting together sooner than later with the school district, discuss with them, because I think they may still have some barriers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you can request that.
Okay.
Anybody else on public comment?
Well, just to piggyback off what Mr. Schuster just said, I watched the Scranton School Board meeting last night, and they did touch base during their finance committee meeting about the payroll prep tax. They're still looking at receiving more data before they make their decisions. So, and they're kind of waiting to hear what where we're at, and have some type of meeting and have a discussion. So,
well, I know that in Councilman Donahue, oh, I'm sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that I heard that last night. They're moving in the same direction maybe, but they require a little more discussion and a little more data collection.
well, Councilman Donahue, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Pat Laffey from the school district, yourself, members of Pell and the administration meeting, I think, weekly on this stuff?
Yeah, we haven't met in a couple of weeks, but myself, Mr. Dealey and Mr. Laffey talked last week via Zoom, and we did a share screen looking over some of the data, just trying to marry up what was the work done in 2019 with the list we got then for 2020, or the work that was done for 2018 with then the list then that we got for 2019. And there were just, where, a business that would have two separate names in 2 separate years because they changed hands, and it's marrying up that data and making sure that all the nonprofits are excluded. So we're setting a rate on what we could actually collect. And Mr. Schuster, in terms of, as going back to last year, I know Pat Laffey wasn't involved in any of those discussions at this point last year, but he's been in the discussion since the beginning of August.
Yeah, that's what I've heard since the new administration took over there. Pat has been now allowed to come to meetings.
Yes.
Okay, anyone else on the question? For
Well,
public
just to clarify, that was stated last night that there are ongoing meetings, but was also stated as the board is waiting for, the collection of data so they can make a decision. So they're still waiting. They're not involved in this process until it comes to them. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
They're out.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Because we're still doing a complete analysis. So we're doing what's taxable, and then we're also bringing into the fold also what what was paid in BP and Merck compared to what will be paid in payroll prep, and so looking at it at a bunch of different ways, and it's just compiling all that information together.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion to accept public comments signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. Mrs. Reed?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Councilman Schuster, do you have any motions or comments?
Not at this time.
Councilman McAndrew, any motions or comments?
Yes, I have two things. So I don't know if everybody realizes time is running out for the census. Tomorrow's the deadline. It takes 10 minutes to complete. I know prior to tomorrow, you could start the process and then log back in, but it's recommended now that because tomorrow is the deadline, to please sit down, do it in one sitting. And then, as I mentioned in caucus, next Tuesday, I have a contractual obligation as a teacher at the Career Technology Center for back to school night. So I'll be unable to attend. I just wanted to explain my absence in advance. But with that said, tonight in caucus, we had a problem with some technical difficulties, but Mr. Dealey was presenting a couple different things. One thing that I requested a couple weeks ago is an update from the task force and to peer council, and to see where they're at with their self-assessment with regards to corrective actions moving forward. So, but my issue, which why I brought it up was I'm not going to be here next week. Is it at all possible or allowed that I can prepare questions because I wanted to be part of that process, because I'm not here, and maybe have someone read them for me, a colleague on council, because the issues I still have is with Kenneth Bond illegally operating in the city. Like I stated before, the taxpayers that pay their taxes and their garbage fees want answers just like I do. So I want to know where we're at with that. So if that's allowable, I apologize for not being able to attend next week, but it's a work thing. So if allowed, President Gaughan, may I prepare a couple questions that can be read on my behalf?
Yeah. Oh, makes total sense. Mm-hmm. Yep. And if you want to get those to Lori, she can give them to the administration in advance, and then someone will pose them, or hopefully they'll come prepared with the answers and give those publicly at the meeting. But yep, that makes sense.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is all I have.
Okay. Dr. Rothchild, any motions or comments?
I just had one comment, and I don't remember if anyone brought it up in the previous meetings. I didn't think that we did. As we get closer to the general election, I think a lot of voters are still choosing to use mail-in ballots to vote as opposed to going to vote in person. And I just wanted to remind everyone that you need to include your ballot in the secrecy envelope, and then that needs to go into the outer envelope that you then sign in order for your vote to count. It won't count if my dogs are ready to vote. It won't count if you don't have it inside that inner secrecy envelope, and if you just put it in the bigger envelope. So I want to make sure that the public was aware of that. I probably should have made that in the announcements, but I didn't want to forget to say it, since some people may already be receiving those mail-in ballots and voting now.
Okay, thank you so much. Councilman Donahue, do you have any motions or comments?
Yeah, just one thing. Back in July, I had gotten a couple complaints or a couple inquiries about the PA American Water project on Birch Street in between South Washington Avenue and Cedar Avenue. The street's been closed for about 1.5 years now. And back then we were informed that the work was going to be done by the end of September, and that full restoration of the road would be done by the end of October. This week we had Ms. Reed forward us an email from Director Priambo that he got an update from Pennsylvania American Water that the road or the project will continue at least until the end of the year, and that the project will also include Bergen Court from Birch Street to Willow Street. Solicitor Hayes, would you be able to look into see if the city has anything on the books limiting the amount of time a utility could close down a street?
Absolutely. I don't know. I don't know offhand, but I'll look into that for you.
Okay. And then if not, if you know what is possible, if it's possible to limit the time a utility could shut down a street, because I mean, there's a business that's at the bottom of that is a trucking distribution center, you know, and they're there at all hours. There's, you know, many residents on that street that lives have been impacted for, you know, over 1.5 years now.
And this is at the bottom of Willow Street in Southside?
So it's Birch Street from Cedar Avenue until the South Washington.
Got it. Okay. Oh yeah, that has been down a block over from South Intermediate.
Yes.
That has been blocked off for a while. Yeah, I know exactly. And there's a moving company on that street. So yeah, I will look into that.
Yes.
Councilman.
All right. Thank you. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. I just have a few things. The first thing I want to talk about tonight is the issues, or not the issues, but the questions that have come up from Mr. Coyne about Scranton tomorrow. So I just want to clear a few things up. The first thing is there was money budgeted in 2020 for Scranton tomorrow, just as there has been for a number of previous years. And I did speak with Leslie Collins from Scranton tomorrow. They are going to be coming in to a council caucus at some point, either in October or November, to give us a quarterly update, which I think should clear up a lot of issues. But they have not received any money or a portion of the money that was allocated from the city yet. They did receive funding from the University of Scranton in the amount of $100,000. That was part of their pilot payment. So the University of Scranton gives a payment in lieu of taxes to the city. The idea behind this from a few years ago was, in the past, a nonprofit would give a payment in lieu of taxes to the city, and it would go right into the general fund and into the black hole. I think the previous administration came to an agreement with the local nonprofits to say that if you're going to give us a payment in lieu of taxes, we like to partner to allocate that money towards a specific project, towards parks and recreation, a number of different things, which I thought was a good idea, rather than, again, just putting it in the general fund and, you know, letting it float out in the middle of nowhere. So that is the way that it is currently done. The arrangement was that part of the university's pilot payment would go towards Scranton tomorrow. Now, questioning Scranton tomorrow, I think we have to remember that this funding commitment on behalf of the city was part of a larger economic development plan through the National Resource Network. And that was adopted, I think, back in 2015. So the National Resource Network, NRN, was hired by the city. NRN is a federally funded economic assistance organization that helps distressed cities like Scranton to create a downtown revitalization plan and more of a strategic vision. So as part of that plan, Scranton Tomorrow was tapped to lead the charge, so to take over and to run with all of the recommendations that were in the plan. The NRN plan is available if anybody would like a copy of it. It's in, I know it's in our file back in our office, in the clerk's office, so Lori can email that to you if you'd like a copy of it and you would like to take a look at it. I know from looking at it a while ago, there was a 3-year implementation plan that laid out several initiatives like sanitation, street cleaning. There was an ambassador program that Scranton Tomorrow has championed, trash removal, graffiti removal, all in the general area of the downtown, general maintenance, upkeep, events, marketing, holiday lighting, so on and so forth, capital improvements. So Scranton Tomorrow is the group that took that on, and they've been more than transparent with council in terms of coming every quarter to give us an update on exactly, number one, how they've spent that money and how they're, how the whole plan is going and what they've done in terms of the strategic vision. The other part of that plan was to have Scranton Tomorrow lead the creation of a downtown business improvement district. Districts in other parts of the country have been real economic drivers for their cities, and business improvement districts in other cities are always usually partially funded by their municipalities, by their cities. So this isn't just like, I understand Mr. Coyne's comments, but it's not like the city's just throwing money at Scranton Tomorrow so 3 or 4 people could go sit in an office and stare at each other. They're actually doing things, and it's part of an overall plan that was put together with benchmarks and goals, and it was really comprehensive from what I could remember. So if anybody would like to take a look at that, whether you're a member of the public or council, you can feel free to reach out to us or reach out to Lori and take a look at that. As part of that, there was a downtown master plan. The city, a few years ago, finally signed on to the Scranton Abington Planning Association, so SAPA, and we were tasked with coming up with a larger comprehensive plan. And there was a lot of benefits to that that we discussed a few years ago. Well, part of that was a downtown master plan, and that is what Scranton Tomorrow took on. So I know that they've been working to help small businesses during the pandemic, so on and so forth. So there is value to this. It's not, again, like, we're just throwing money away at organizations. I would not be in favor of that. So hopefully that clears some things up on Scranton Tomorrow. I also wanted to mention that there have been, I have been contacted about a recent rash of car burglaries and garage break-ins in Minooka. They were hit twice in 2 weeks. A lot of residents back in Minooka are concerned. They do have a somewhat picture, not really clear of the people that are involved in this. So I was asked by members of or residents of Minooka if we could reach out to the police department and ask if there could be regular patrols over there randomly between midnight and 4 a.m. That seems to be when this is happening. So Chief Nemeka was copied on that, and I'm confident that the police department will step up patrols there. Also, a gentleman reached out to me about the intersection of Capouse Avenue and Olive Street. Apparently that area is in pretty rough condition in terms of blight, including the all-phase building. So we did send that out to the licensing and inspections department. And this gentleman also brought up the New Jersey Central building on Lackawanna Avenue that's been vacant for years. I know that there was talk a few years ago about something being done with that or some kind of funding being put into it. But it's been quiet ever since. So I am going to reach out to Mrs. Reed and ask if we could try to find out who owns the property and whether or not there's any plans to revitalize that. I think at one point there may have been some OECD involvement, but I'm not sure. So we'll look into that. Also, I'd like Mrs. Reed, if we could send correspondence to our police chief and copy Laurel Woods, which is a development in the Manuka section of Scranton. I have been contacted by residents living in that development who have been complaining about loud noise, harassment, violence, people threatening them. It's more than one person, and there's been police reports that have been filed in the past, and they've been dealing with this for about 2 years now. So if we could have just the police chief notified again, and we'll copy Laura Woods on that to let them know that we are not pleased with what's going on over there based on the information that I've received. And that's all I have this week. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you. 5B, for introduction, an ordinance authorizing the city of Scranton to allow the R1-1 stop sign with a W3-1 stop ahead sign placed in advance of the stop sign on Price Street at its intersection with Newton Road to remain as installed on August 27, 2020.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, was it due to the recess in August that the sign was put up before it came in front of council, or is that procedural? Any reason why the timeline kind of was off on this one?
Are you asking me, Councilman Schuster?
If anyone is aware.
I don't know. I would reach out to the DPW director of the law department. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I guess I was looking maybe for past history. Some of you guys that have been on the council for a while, whether anything else has come up that way. Not a big deal. I'm sure the sign is helpful in that neighborhood.
Anyone else? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5C for introduction, an ordinance amending file of the council number 4, 2020 entitled authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials for the city of Scranton to take all necessary actions to implement a consolidated submission for community planning and development programs to be funded under the Community Development Block Grant Program, Home Investment Partnership Program, and Emergency Solutions Grants Program for the 5-year consolidated plan analysis of impediments to fair housing choice and annual action plan for the period beginning January 1, 2020 by amending the 2020 action plan programming by $522,531 in CDBG CV funds made available by the CARES Act.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5D for introduction and resolution, appointment of Christina L. Manuel, 1801 Sanderson Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18509, as a member of the board of the Scranton Redevelopment Authority for a 5-year term effective September 14, 2020. Ms. Manuel will be replacing Bert Schwartz, whose term expired February 5, 2020 and was held over. Ms. Manuel's term will expire on February 5, 2025.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All
Yeah,
those-
on the question, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add, Ms. Manuel, I've worked with her in other capacities, and I really respect the work that she's done with UNC and over the years. And so I think that she would be a really great fit for the Scranton Redevelopment Redevelopment Authority. So I'm happy to see this come to her desk.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
5E for introduction of resolution, appointment of Michael Hanley, 800 Woodlawn Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18509, as a member of the Scranton Housing Authority for a 5-year term effective September 27, 2020. Mr. Hanley will be replacing Mary Claire Kingsley, whose term expired September 27, 2020. Mr. Hanley's term will expire on September 27, 2025.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second,
On the question?
I would like to say on the question, I would just like to thank Mary Claire Kingsley for her great work with the Housing Authority and on this board, and I wish her well.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question?
Also, I'd like to say it was nice to see the letter from Mrs. Kingsley come in that, she enjoyed serving on the board and would like another term, but I guess that can't happen at this point in time, but it was nice to see the letter from her. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question?
yes, I'd also like to echo their comments and thank Mrs. Kingsley for previously serving on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved.
Sixth order, no business at this time. Seventh order, 7A for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for Adoption, file of the Council number 22, 2020. Amending file of the Council number 4, 2020, entitled Authorizing the Mayor and other appropriate officials of the City of Scranton to take all necessary actions to implement the consolidated submission for community planning and development programs to be funded under the Community Development Block Grant Program, Home Investment Partnership Program, and Emergency Solutions Grants Program for the 5-year consolidated plan, analysis of impediments to fair housing choice, and annual action plan for the period beginning January 1, 2020 by amending the 2020 action plan by programming $1,649,621 in CDBG CV funds made available by the CARES Act and programming $1,435,629 in ESG CV funds made available by the CARES Act.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chair for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, file of the Council number 24, 2020, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to apply for and execute a grant application by the City of Scranton Police Department, and if successful, a grant agreement and accept funds related thereto through the BJA FY18 Edward Byrne Justice Assistance Grant Program, local solicitation in the amount of $18,638 to purchase an automated license plate reader.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of 7B.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption, file of the Council number 25, 2020, authorizing the City of Scranton to establish parking restrictions for a loading/unloading zone from 9:15 to 9:45 a.m., 1 o'clock p.m. to 1:30 p.m., and 6:30 p.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. along 300 Lackawanna Avenue between Penn Avenue and Wyoming Avenue for the United States Postal Service.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As chairman for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D for consideration by the Committee on Public Safety for adoption. Resolution number 70, 2020, opposing the overland transportation of liquefied natural gas through the city of Scranton and its surrounding communities.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Safety, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted.
7E for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption. Resolution number 71, 2020, amending resolution number 37, 2020, entitled authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials for the city of Scranton to enter into an agreement with Scranton Area Foundation, Inc. to establish the City of Scranton Small Business Fund, a pass-through fund, which will distribute grants in the amount of $2,500 to various small business throughout the city of Scranton as part of the City of Scranton Small Business Relief Grant Program due to the COVID-19 pandemic, to increase the number of grants authorized by resolution number 37, 2020 from 110 to 111.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chair for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7E.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7E legally and lawfully adopted.
7F for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption. Resolution number 72, 2020, ratifying and approving the execution and submission of the grant application by the City of Scranton to Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development Center for Business Financing Grants Office for a multimodal transportation funds grant to be utilized for the Lace Village multimodal project in the amount of $334,366.45.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As chair for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7F.
Second.
On the question? On the question, Mrs. Reed, I know this is, the grant deadline is tomorrow. So if we could just make sure that this gets signed by the mayor and gets to the appropriate people, I would appreciate it.
Yes, we'll do. I've already spoken to the mayor's office. It'll be down first thing in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7F legally and lawfully adopted.
7G for consideration by the Committee on Rules for adoption. Resolution number 73, 2020, appointment of John Judge, 915 Electric Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18509, to the position of interim fire chief effective July 21, 2020.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7G.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7G legally and lawfully adopted.
7H, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 74, 2020, appointment of Mary Jo Sheridan, 1213 Schlager Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18504, as City Treasurer for the City of Treasury Department, effective September 8, 2020.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7H.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7H legally and lawfully adopted.
7I, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution Number 75, 2020, appointment of Leonard Nemeka, 1130 Philo Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18508, to the position of Interim Police Chief, effective September 12, 2020.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7I.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gaughan.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7I legally and lawfully adopted. If there is no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.